Good morning, team. How are we today? Thursday morning. Not so sunny, but it's coming and going, so we'll take that. 12 degrees to start the day. But that's not what we're here to talk about. The subject I want to talk about today, and I think is very important and crucial and central to the success of running any project or running any business, and that's habits. We talk about getting into the right habits. We talk about the structure of habits, and we talk about how they fit into your daily, weekly life, and how they support the development of your systems, your processes, and the structure that's needed to be successful in business. I suppose to start, we should start with intention. A lot of people live their lives, and a lot of businesses live their lives with the desire to achieve, to be successful. But not all have a plan for that. Not all sit down and say, right, 2 to 5 years from now, or even 1 year from now, I'm going to achieve X or I'm going to achieve Y. A lot of people are caught up in the day-to-day work. If you're in construction, which is the business that I am in and have been in for decades at this stage, then when there's a boom on, depending on what your responsibilities are, depending on what your business is, work can come fairly easily. It's not necessarily the most profitable thing in the world, but it's there, and there's work if you're in the right area and you have some connections and contacts. And I like to talk about the rising tide lifts all ships, and to some degree that's what happens when you are in a boom scenario, like we're in at the moment in Ireland, in the construction industry at least. And what happens is that people are so busy that they just keep taking the work, or sometimes they don't, but mostly the work arrives, and they sort of organically, sort of slowly get a bit bigger, maybe get another van and a couple more men on the road, and then they discover that maybe they're not making so much money as they were making when there was just them, 2 of them in a van on the road doing work. And I think the key to the success of taking on the right work and good business is knowing what it is you want, knowing what you're going after. What's your plan? And a lot of the time you're so busy and there's work coming in, so you're not worried about it. So there's no real plan, because it just keeps coming in, and next year you did a little bit more. You're doing a little bit more than last year or this year, and that's the way it works. So intention, I think, is crucial. It's crucial in the sense that it gives you direction. If you want to grow and scale a business, and the purpose to do that is to free yourself up, to either have more time for your family or hobbies, or get involved in some other business or do something else, or to sell the business, which is a very good reason to grow and develop a business. But there's certain criteria necessary when you grow a business. That criteria is that you need to have a good sound supply of work, a good pipeline. You need to be able to see, without, not guaranteed, but you need to be able to see fairly confidently that there's 12 to 18 months of consistent work in line with the work that you've been doing over the last 2 to 5 years. That's on the pipeline, and pretty much, unless you do something seriously wrong, is guaranteed is going to happen. The other one is having a good team, having some A players in that team, people who drive the business and are part of the succession planning that will be either a management buyout when you sell it, if you sell it, or the people that free you up to have the time we spoke about earlier. So a good team is key, very important. Another thing I think that's very important is to have systems and structures in place, because you do need A players to run a business and to scale a business and to be successful, and to have people who potentially might want to do a management buyout, but also, as I said, to be successful and keep the business going and free your time up eventually. But without systems and processes, it's a challenge, because everybody's not an A player, and you will not only employ A players, much as you would like to. So you need a system, you need a process. But you need it for two reasons, not just because you need to onboard people, teach them and train them in the way you do things, but because even when you get to a place in time when you decide that you want to sell that business, one of the key criterias and tick box items that potential buyers or investors are going to need to see is, do you have a good, solid system, a structure in place that's been operating for 3 or 4 years, that has added value to the business and made it, to some degree, and this is possible, made it niche and bespoke and different from just being any other builder? And that's important. So having good systems and processes in place is a good leveler as well. Why? Because staff, as I said, are not all going to be A players. So you need to have a leveler, and the system is the leveler. It gives people clear direction, clear understanding of what it is they do, what they should be doing, and how you do what you do. When you onboard people, it's really, really quick and simple, and they get into the groove and get through the learning curve very quickly if there's a system, a structure, and in the organization to train them and teach them. So getting back to intention and getting back to habits, once you have a system, once you have a structure, once you have your A players and some good B players in place, that's not enough, because a system will just gather dust unless somebody actually works it. Now, we live in a world of agentic AIs, but I don't think we're kind of in that world yet, and I think in the construction industry it's probably a little bit further down the road in terms of delivering that for people. So if you talk about how to make the system work, how to get your people operational, it's very important to teach them the right habits. Now, it's easy to say, well, I employed them, they had all this experience and I'm paying them good money, so they should have those habits, they should come automatically. Fact is, they don't. They to some degree, to some people do, and to other people don't. But you want consistent habits. You want consistent compliance with your processes. You want consistent intent. You want all of these processes to work. So you actually have to teach people how to have good habits. You have to instill that. And then there's two ways of doing that. One of them is they watch you. Are you showing up every day in the same way? Are you walking through a process that you have religiously in the same way? Are you respecting the plan? You know, sometimes you make a plan, and part of having any process is reviewing that process. As you operate, as you scale, as you execute, you'll find that there are things about that process that worked when you started but don't work now, so they need a tweak and a change, and that's fine. But by and large, once you've set your process and set your plan, you need to be able to make sure that your people are following it. And the best way to do that is that they watch you follow it. That you don't, I suppose, disrespect your plan by cancelling a meeting that should be had for management. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the world should be full of meetings. There's a lot of discussion on that subject. I love the one that Michael O'Leary said when he was saying that meetings should be 30 minutes maximum, and there should be no chairs, because you need to be on the core in the meeting. I mean, that gets me back to another part of your process and teaching. It's so important to teach your staff how to run a meeting. It's not as simple as just following an agenda, which is in the process, because there's so many nuances about managing a meeting, keeping the meeting on track, keeping it on point, making sure that everybody has the information from that meeting that they need, So teaching people how to run a meeting is teaching people good habits. And I think the challenge is that human nature is that you will always have, particularly running a business, particularly running projects, there'll always be a curveball. Every day there'll be a curveball. Every hour of every day in some projects there'll be curveballs. There'll be something going on that wasn't the plan, that derails the process, derails the system, and derails your day, your plan. So the key to staying on point and staying on track is to have a robust system that covers those things. And I think that the best way to teach people a system is them watch you respect the system, operate the system, and don't systematically, for want of a better word, abuse the system by changing meetings, moving them all over the place, by I suppose circumventing a process that you put in place for expediency or anything like that. And you know, if the system doesn't work, change it, but don't put it in place and ignore it, because the whole system gets destroyed then. And that's where good habits with your people are so important. The second way is to actually teach people habits. I mean, literally sit down and talk them through time management. Time management is one of the most critical habits to get right. Time management is, I mean, there's people who get degrees in time management now. I mean, I know that's hard to believe, but it actually happens. Time management is critical to keeping you on track and keeping habits, and having contingency built into your time so that when the proverbial hits the fan, you have some resilience and some redundancy built in so you can manage that. So following another critical habit is following your word. People say a lot of things and they don't always do them. In fact, mostly they don't. They might not do them on time. They may not do them at the level of completeness that you expected. They might not do them at all. It is surprising, shocking even, how many people say they're going to do something and don't do it. You will be the most, or one of the most unique people that anybody ever interacts with if you do what you say you're going to do. Without excuses, without equivocation, without a delay, do what you say you're going to do. That's a very important habit. It's also a very important business strategy, and it's also a very important character trait that shows your brand, you as a person and your company. The culture of getting back to people when they call. Even if you've got nothing positive to say, even if the only thing you have to say is, I saw you connected with me and yeah, what you're doing doesn't work with our company, or I don't have I don't have the time right now to deal with this, but I'll get back to you later. Always get back to people, because you'll be remembered for that. That's a character trait, and it's a very, very, very important habit. But getting into the habitual habit of getting up in the morning and walking through a structure each day, each week. Set your weeks out, set your months out. Have a structure. Have a weekly meeting, management meeting, progress meeting. Cover the topics quickly. Don't spend hours at it. Manage the meeting right and do it well. But get into the habit. I talk about MBWA, management by walking around. You get up away from your desk and walk around and interact with your team, with your staff. If you're running a construction project, walk around the site 2 to 3 times a day. But not specifically to go and solve this technical problem or this planning problem or this issue or this setting out. Just walk around with no plan. Chat to people, find out what's going on. It's amazing what you will learn that you will not learn sitting at a desk. And that doesn't just apply to construction companies, it applies to any business. The visualization of the the boss or the manager walking around and talking to people, you will learn so much about what's going on that you will not get at your desk, and that really is absolutely critical. That's a habit. That's not I have a minute now, it's 6 o'clock, you go outside, nobody's there. That's a habit. You should almost set your clock to do it. Should be the first thing you do in the morning, depending on what you do, of course, but if you're running a project, it's absolutely the first thing you should do in the morning. Late morning, early afternoon, you should do it again, just to get into the groove of what's going on. See stuff that you wouldn't normally see and people won't tell you. Sometimes people are afraid to tell you, or they're shy to tell you, or they're embarrassed to tell you, but you need to know. So MBWA, management but walking around, critical part of good management. So another habit, and it doesn't seem like a habit sometimes, but it's a habit, and something you need to cultivate and learn, particularly in management, is learning the habit of staying calm, not losing the head when all around are, keeping the head when all around are losing it, being a person that people know they can come to because you're not going to fly off the handle and lose the track, and then that's a habit. It's a character trait as well, but you can learn that. Nothing is ever as bad as it seems. So it's important that people see you as that safe haven, that person they can come to, because that's when you get to know about the stuff that's going to be critical to what you're trying to deliver project-wise. So that's quite important. Tracking progress is a habit. When you run a project, as we spoke about earlier on, you have a system, you have a process, you have a plan. Particularly in construction, you have construction programs, you have schedules, you have all of the different paraphernalia that goes with managing projects and managing a company that manages projects. And what's really important is understand what's going on. So the habit of filling out a daily diary, the habit of updating a schedule, a program, that should be a daily habit. It's not an end of the week or end of the month thing. It should be something that you get into the habit of doing every day. So all of the information within your reporting mechanism or system, whether it's a schedule for procurement, whether it's a cost report, whether it's a program schedule, whether it's an update of procurement schedule, whatever it might be, those should be real-time documents that are on your system, and that you as a professional should be updating daily. Use it like your diary, like your calendar, those schedules. They should be updated immediately they happen, and they're on a system so that it's real-time information for the boss, or it's real-time information for you or for the rest of the team that you're collaborating with. So it's so important to keep the habits of following habits. Most people don't do that. They do what comes at them. Here's a bad habit: opening your email first thing in the morning and allowing other people's agendas, to-do lists become yours. Make a list every day. That's a good habit of the key 2, 3, maximum 4 core activities that you need to achieve every day or by the end of the week. These are the things that no matter what happens or doesn't happen, I must get done. Getting in the habit of understanding and following that, that's a critical habit. Absolutely, probably the most important habit of all the habits we're talking about here today. It is so important that it gets rid of the noise. Steve Jobs used to talk about signal and noise. Signal meant crucial, critical paths, stuff that must be done, stuff that moves the needle, stuff that really has an impact and moves things on. The noise is basically everything else. We can be in maintenance. Maintenance doesn't get move the needle. Now maintenance needs to be done. But the core activities, the signal, the things that move the needle, the things that will make a difference, that's where you need to get into the habit of identifying them, making a list of them and driving them out. That is probably the most important habit. So anyway, I just on my way to meet a client today, and I just thought it'd be something it's been resonating in my brain over the last couple of days, and I think it's important that people understand there's no magic bullet to success in this world, and that's in business or running a project or procuring a design or doing a design. There's no magic formula. The magic formula is showing up consistently and persistently, and you do that by having a habit that you show up. And if you take nothing else from this video today, the most successful people in this world turn up regularly and have the habit to turn up regularly. With that, thank you very much. See you on the next one.